working as industry consulting manager at Entity Data, and thanks to Rohit, who is the host for the Pune user group, and he's currently working as senior associate for observability things at TIA. So I welcome you all in the session. All right. First, we'll go through assets and identity, the basics of the same, why it is important, what are the out-of-the-box dashboards available for the same, and how we can configure assets and identity. So typically, as we were discussing just before starting this session, we have events coming from multiple data sources, and not a single data source is going to have all the information. So let's say at one end you'll have some firewall data which will provide you the insights on what's the IP address of the user, and what are the URLs or the IP address the user gave the hit on, and what was the port details, and so on. So that is something it will give, but you may not be able to get the host details of the user altogether. Or if that's the IP address of the laptop, let's say my laptop, in the firewall data, I would be only getting the IP address, but not the host name. Now, while we work on any of the incidents, let's say if there are some SOC analysts who identify that there was some activity by this user, and they need some additional information about that user, or for that asset, something like where that asset stands. So if it is virtual machine, or if it is physical machine sitting at some data center, if in some data center, at what specific location it is located into, or what that what's the category of the asset. Is it used in is it my AD server, or is it my firewall device, or some of the network device, or is it just laptop, or what is it? So the framework helps with correlating the information specific to, as the name suggests, assets and identity. Now, what asset is? Any device, be it your laptop, be it your mouse, or be it your network device, your firewall, or anything is the asset. And identity are more often than not users, the actual users, but it's not just the users, it can even include the service accounts as well. So asset can be your physical device, or any virtual, even your EC2 instance, or something which you have hosted on cloud can be even asset for you, where some application is running, or in the production there are some activities going on through that virtual machine or the EC2 instance. So that can be even considered as an asset to enterprise security. So it helps, the framework basically helps enrich the events with extra details, like who the user is or what the system is. So for example, if you're getting some event with this IP address, now you may not understand what this is. Let's say you get an alert there where more than 15 failed login attempts, or someone tried to SSH into this in this Linux box, but you'll not have additional information while you are working on the incident. You may have sitting in some of the other tools, let's say your CMDB tool or somewhere, where you'll have to pick the value from here, and you'll go there and find out what this is. Rather, what this framework can help you is directly in the event itself. This will give you insights like this. So let's say if it is the IP address, it can provide you with the host details or the owner detail of that particular asset. So instead of saying this, stating something like this is CFO's laptops makes much more sense in the real life incidents. For example, an alert on a critical server is more important on the production one or critical server, instead of just the test machine. What this means is there can be some of the use case. Let's say I'll go with the same one. Someone tried to have more than 10 or 15 SSH attempts, failed SSH attempts. Now, such failed attempts on a test machine can be of the less priority compared to your AD server, for an example. Now we need to configure a priority, because when the use case or the correlation search runs, or the save search runs in the Splunk or enterprise security, there can be T search results. So if you have team of 3 or 5 SOC analysts, and out of nowhere there are 20 assets where each of the alert is about multiple failed SSH attempts. Now what next? How do you prioritize how your SOC analyst, if you have 3 or 5 people only versus 20, how do they prioritize that in next 10 minutes or 15 minutes, which one to pick first, which alert to pick first? So that's where you can configure something called as priority, which will look into a minute, a priority for the assets and identity, so that if a notable is generated for your AD server, takes much more priority compared to your test instance, which can be like normal or the info level. And the another example is, if a login alert is triggered from an IP, the framework can tell you if it's from CEO's laptops or some random cache device. So this is similar to some device getting compromised. We have some use case where it states that there were multiple files being deleted within short span. Let's say within 5 minutes, there are 300 or 400 files being deleted. You're getting this data from the DLP, something like from Netscope, getting data into Splunk, and you're running a correlation on top of that. That in 2 minutes or 3 minutes, or let's say even 5 minutes, there were 600 files getting deleted. Now, if that's from a CEO's laptops or someone from finance team's laptop, who typically have more access compared to a normal user, or some contractor engineer, because the level of information this asset or this users would have would be very much critical versus any of the normal users. So we also, just like the asset, for the users as well, we want to prioritize our notable accordingly. So that's where the assets and identity comes into the picture, and this is very basic. And this, I'll tell you honestly, this is something, if you're configuring ES right after data models or the basic assets and identity, would be something you would want to start configuring, because you would have 5 or 7 different sets of log sources. Let's say it can be your LDAP server, or it can be your AWS cloud sources, where you have multiple virtual machines running, or you will have some another cloud sources from which you would want to get the data from. So, and this touches, be it RBA framework, or be it any other framework, the assets and identity will always, have something to do with all of the other frameworks as well, or all of the other incidents as well, because more often than not, as I was mentioning, not a single log source will give you all the information. You would want to enrich your existing data as well. I'll give you another example. Let's say your Windows log source is giving you the information on the host name and the owner details, like who is accessing that laptop or that device right now. Versus your CMDB, let's say your service now has the information on the IP address associated with that specific host name. Now, this can be two lookups, let's say two different assets and assets lookup in the place, where one has the information about the IP address and the host name, and the second lookup has the information about the host name and the owner detail. How ES can help is, it will merge based on the key field, which we'll also touch in a minute, but it will help you with merging that information, because the host is something common between both the lookups. So at the end, even though you do not have IP address information in your Windows data, or even though you do not have, let's say, host name or the owner details in some another log source, if it's just IP address, it will out of the box even give you, or it will enrich you with the host name and the owner detail as well in the data. So that's how it can help let's this is something I have fetched from the Splunk dev website for the assets and identity, where we have inputs, let's say some custom technology add-on or TA, or we write some of our own saved searches which will generate the lookups continuously. Uh, we configure those lookups, we then normalize the events. So let's say the owner information is being available as user or user ID in some of the log source. We also have to normalize those information, and we configure all of the lookups, and then we have all the all the fields ready or enriched in our log sources. This may not make much sense, but probably next 20 to 30 minutes, we will probably revisit this one, where it will make more sense once we have hands-on with this. Why it's important? It gives the security events some business context. So it's not IP address now; it has some risk associated with it, or it has some business justification that hey, this is this level of user, or the designation of this user is this. So probably we would want to prioritize this alert compared to all of the 100 alert that we have in place. It enables the accurate correlations. It can be like IP address to asset, or user login information to the actual user in the identity lookups. It improves the analyst productivity and the triaging. So analysts now don't have to go to 2 or 3 different tools where you have your information available, your CMDB, or they do not have to log into their AWS to see who the owner or his, or they do not have to log into some Confluence pages or wiki where you have the information provided that this IP address is of this server, and this is the person who owns this. You have all the context available in ES only, which analysts can directly correlate. It enables the risk-based prioritization of the incidents as well. We'll touch base on how RBA is linked with this, and it has the configurable priority field, which contributes in determining the urgency of the notable. Uh, all right. Next is out of the box dashboard. Probably we will come back to this as soon as we configure. All right, let's do some hands-on. And before that, I'll just give the information or some additional information on this. Uh, so, okay, I have one link already open, which is how enterprise security configures the urgency for all of the notables, or from ES 8.0, we call it findings over here. So let's say on the left side we have the priority of our asset or our identity, and on the right side, which is on the column and we have the severity. Now severity can be of the use case. Let's say, for example, multiple failed login attempts versus multiple SSH attempts versus multiple files being deleted, or someone trying to access some privileged file from your critical server. All of these use cases would have different severity. Something like your AD server would have the critical priority, because if that is compromised, all of your applications would have issues with the logging or whatsoever. Versus just like 5 or 7 failed login attempts on a local machine might not be that much important as a use case. It is still important. It does not mean that we do not have available in our environment, but it can be of the low or medium priority versus the other use cases of the critical priority. So this is the severity of the use case, and on the left side it's the priority of assets or identity. So, for example, I have assigned one of the IT team members' assets priority as high. So, let's say the laptop that he or she is using, I have assigned that laptop's priority as high, versus executive or director levels, folks would fall into critical, versus some contractor who have very very much minimal information available in the laptop. So I am assigning that the priority for that laptop as low. Now imagine there is one use case, not multiple. Let's just say there is one use case where it says that you know uh, there were, I'll stick to the same example. Let's say there were 200 files getting deleted. Now from the contractor laptops, if that is being deleted, that can be of the high priority, or if we have assigned the severity of the use case as high, it can be of the medium priority. For me or for some of the engineers, let's say it can be just high priority. Versus for the same use case, if there is an asset which is associated to some executive or the director, it would be automatically assigned as the critical priority. So now, even though you have three notables in your environment, all of the three from the same use case, the end urgency for those three are three different. For contractor, it's the medium. For engineer or someone from the IT team, it's high, and for the executive, it's a critical. So the analyst can now prioritize the critical one first, because if that asset is compromised, the level of information or the attack radius can be higher uh, compared to some other laptop. So this is where this is very much important. And you may feel that, okay, and I have seen this in a lot of environment, all of the assets or all of the identity, all of the users are just assigned as the medium priority, so everything is medium. This is very bad practice. You should have some conditions. It can be like your designation, it can be like the category of the asset. Let's say if it's the laptop versus VM, your critical server versus test servers. You should always have such custom conditions based on which you assign the priority. It should always be different priority. When you open the asset center dashboard, it should never be like, every assets you have 10,000 users and the priority of 10,000 users are medium, because at the end there is no meaning of even defining priority, because all of the notables are going to have the same urgency at the end. So always, if you're configuring this for some customer or even for yourself or your production environment, first take pen and paper, note down what can be the conditions based on which I can assign different priorities. So your AD may give you information on the designation or the manager details or so. So based on that as well, you can define the priority. All right. So I have opened enterprise security over here. And if you go to configure data enrichment and assets and identity management, you will land on this dashboard where there are two demo assets and static assets lookup, which are there out of the box. So that means that if you're installing the ES for fresh, it will be there, though it will be disabled. And same goes with the identity lookups as well. The administrative identities and the demo identities are something out of the box. Now, let me just open both of them, so we can see what are the uh, uh, lookups it is packed with. I will also open up the asset center and identity center, which we'll go through right after this. It's not really- Just give me a minute. Okay, so this is the demo asset lookup where you can see that there are multiple fields available over here. Now, what are these fields? So, just like we have the data models, where we have for the specific data models, we have a different set of fields already defined. For the assets and identity lookups as well, if you look over the documentation, we have a set of fields already defined. So if you see the asset lookup header, it does have fields like IP, MAC, NT underscore host, DNS owner. Such fields are already defined, and you can see what each field denotes. So this does not mean that we cannot have our own field as well. But if you go to assets and identity management, and if you go under asset fields, you can also add your own field over here. But by default, and more often than not, you'll have all of the fields which you require be available here itself. Now, you may observe that there are some fields which are marked as key field. Anyone wants to take a guess what this key field would be? Probably you may get some idea from the name itself: DNS, IP, MAC, and NT underscore host. These four are defined as the key field. Anyone wants to share if you already know of what key field is?
Those are the fields on the basis of which the assets will be combined.
Correct, correct. So there is something called merging feature, which was introduced, I think, in ES 6 or so, out of the box, where you can just set up enable merge for assets and identity. And if you have, and by default, this is enabled only. If you are enabling the merging, that means that if there are two lookups like this, let's say one has this information and the second has some different row, but the IP address is same. The example which I was mentioning 10 minutes back, if the IP address or the host name is same, ES will automatically merge both of the rows and it will just present you with just a single line. So let's say one has DNS and IP information and the other has IP and latitude longitude information. Splunk will combine the if you have, of course, if you have enabled the assets and identity merging based on the IP address, which would be common between two lookups, it will just combine that. And how it would look, we can see from the asset center. So if you go to security domains, identity and asset center, you will see something like this. This is something after you configure all of your assets lookup, you can just come over and verify if the lookups are updated or not. Or you can just go to search preview and open up. You can see there are three lookups mentioned over here. Two are related to assets, which is assets lookup by str and by CIDR, and one is for the identity, which is identity lookup expanded. So you can even, let me just open that as well. Meanwhile, but let me show you this dashboard as well. Over here, what all you can do is, let's say you want to have some information about some IP address, or you want to have some additional information in place while you are working on some of the incident for a specific user. Let's say from which business unit that user belongs to, or what are the contact details, or what's the location of the user from where he or she works from. If you have configured well in your lookups, all you have to do is just come over this dashboard and just filter for that user. So for example, I'm saying that I want to have some information about this owner. What all I have to do is just write that one over here, and there you go. So for the same owner, now you have this additional information in place. So let's say he has some device with this MAC address, this MAC address, and I believe this can be some of the internal host for which is the owner of. Yeah, some NT underscore host as this. So all if you have configured it well, you do not have to open each and every lookup. All you have to do is just come over this dashboard and filter out. or you can have your custom dashboards as well, of course. But all it does, all ES does is at periodical cycle, which is by default 300 seconds, which even you can configure. This is, set how much time to wait before each identity manager run. So by default it's 5 minutes. You can even configure, high or less depending on the frequency your data gets updated. So yeah, let me open this one. Yeah. Now, if you see, I have all the information combinedly available over here. So if it is the same NT underscore host, it can be different asset tags or it can be different assets being merged over here. And if you disable the merging, instead of 36 rows, you'll have all the different rows, whatever are available in all of your lookups will be available over here. Instead of just 36, you will of course have more number of rows, because then this two, for example, will not get merged, or these two assets will not get merged based on the NT host. All right. The important question: how we have the lookup available over here, or how we build the lookup altogether. So that's where some of the add-on comes into the picture. So something like Splunk add-on for Active Directory, which typically is used to get or fetch the information from LDAP server, where you have all the users information available or all the computers information available. So if you are installing that in your environment and it does have predefined search query, you can just run and populate a lookup based on the same. Or even in the recent version, I think after 6.x version or so, you have a feature of configuring the LDAP lookup from this screen itself. So if you are saying that I want to configure my lookup, or let's say I have all of the 15,000 or 20,000 user information available on my LDAP server, all you have to do is just configure LDAP lookup over here. You provide your domain information available, which you have configured in the Splunk add-on for Active Directory, and it will automatically populate a search for you. And all you have to do is just hit save. So as soon as your LDAP directory is updated, let's say there are 10 users created in the LDAP, this lookup will also get merged. Or if you have some cloud lookups, so let's say if it is in AWS, I think earlier it used to be just one of the provider. Now there are AWS, GCP, and Azure. All of the cloud data source are supported. If you have description event, if you have worked with AWS, you would know a source type AWS colon description, or some information from the IAM users. All you have to do is just mention your search name and the crowns. It will automatically populate the results into whatever lookup you define. So let's say as soon as I mention a lookup, it comes up with a predefined search, where it looks for the event type equal to AWS description IAM, and it does some join functions and so on. Because what happens is, again, just like the data model normalization, you also have to do a normalization of the fields for your lookups as well. So as I was mentioning, if you have user or ID or some information available, you have to have that available as the owner as the field, and then only you can create a lookup. So yeah. Or if not LDAP or cloud service, you may say that I have some custom data which is not there from any of this. Why this information is provided in the docs is these are the majority of the log sources from where you will have the assets or identity information. So let's say if it is LDAP or service now, your service now would already have your you know identity information available. So it will say that if it is just asset, let's say CMDB will not have user, it will just have your as the name itself, such as it will only have the asset information available. But if you have something which is not there over here, all you have to do is configure a save search to output the lookup with, for output lookup command and populate a lookup and have that available over here. So let's do that quickly. We'll pick one of the log source and we'll configure one lookup over here. Not sure why this is running slow today. Just a minute. Okay, so I'll just say let's pick one of the log source from, um, let's say something from the uh, Windows data. We'll populate one asset lookup. Okay, so by just looking at the logs, this will of course have this. I assume is the security events. Yeah. So the security, when you unlock security, would at least have the information on the computer name and the user. So let's say the user is available with the field of user. So I'll just say name user as owner, and I'll say computer name as entry underscore host. And I am just populating stars by underscore host and just for let's say last 60 minutes. And let's say fails minus count. Okay, this we are assuming that whatsoever is available in the minion log security, let's say the computer and the owner detail, we are just assuming right now that whosoever uses that host or the computer are the owners of the same. But of course, in the real life, that might be true, that might not be true. But for the example, let's say we just have two fields available, like nt underscore host and the owner available over here. Now, as I was mentioning earlier, you may see that there are different set of naming convention available. So one is starting with BC underscore, one is with NY. Now you may say that my NY host or my NY servers are of the high priority. So what I would say is eval you know priority equal to if nt underscore host is equal to, I think I'll have to use like function, but let's just try with this. And say it's of critical, or I'll just say I, yeah, I'll have to use like function. Like host. Yeah, so this one got critical as the priority and rest of are high. Now this is just very basic configuration. All I'm saying is if it starts with this pattern, just mark it as critical or everything else as. But in the production, you would want to first, as I was mentioning, you would want to first have pen and paper, note down all of the condition that can be in place. Then you configure your search or write down the search accordingly. and you just populate the final results. So right now, out of all of the fields which are mentioned in the lookup, we are just giving three, and we are just populating this as lookup. Let's say my demo lookup dot csv. Let's see if that's being populated. Okay, this is one of the bug, by the way, of Splunk, where even though this technically is the first command because we have commented everything, this will not accept this. We'll have to remove, and then only this will work. Okay, so now we have this available as critical and the high over here. Now, what you have to do is the lookup table file and definition. This lookup needs to be present in the SA identity management. Right now, it's in Splunk Enterprise Security, and we need to update this with SA identity management, which is mentioned, I think, somewhere in the documentation. Just give me a minute. Add a new lookup table file. Yeah. So I mean, the documentation, of course, are very much straightforward and useful. If you are just following that, this will give you all the low level information as well. So as I was mentioning, the destination app needs to be SA identity management over here. So, but somehow I think because of the role that I have on this instance, I'm not able to move. But let's see if just creating a lookup definition, some other works or not. Let's say my demo lookup, and this one I'll configure under SA identity management. Configure and make sure the uh, the sharing is global over here. Now, again, I have another issue, which is my bad, where I do not have the permission to make this global. But this is, just like second last step. As soon as this is available in the global as the sharing, what you have to do is just go on a new, create the new configuration, and that lookup, whatever you have available over here, which is my demo lookup, will be available over here. So let's say you have to select the source as that one, which is of course not available right now, and you can just hit save. What it will do is it will have that additional row available over here, and you just have to enable that. Now, one more important thing, which is the ranking. If you see over here, there is a field called rank 1, 2, 3, 4. Can anyone guess why ranking would be in place over here? Why we need rank if at the end everything is going to be merged? Anyone? Okay, I'll go. So there can be a situation where the same field information is available with different values. So your one lookup, let's say your demo assets says that the priority of one host is critical, and for the same host, this lookup says it's high. Now, when it merges, which one to prioritize or which one to rank higher, which is what being look through the rank. So you can literally you can do drag and drop, and you can save the ranking as well, which means that if a field information is available in this lookup, which is the lower lookup, lower rank lookup, consider that as the highest one, highest priority, which means that if this is critical and if this is high, Splunk will consider that as critical only, because the rank of that lookup is lowest. So if you have 6 or 7 or 8 lookup available over here, make sure you're ranking it accordingly. Now, I have seen some of the environments where there are static lookups as well available. So something like your executive identity detail, or some of your servers, some of your physical servers, which are not going to be frequently updated. Let's say the owner detail or the location detail is never going to be updated, and you want to put down the priority as critical. What you can do is just configure a static lookup through lookup editor app or so, and have that available over here with the lowest rank. So let's say that lookup only has information of 4 assets, which are your DLP server or your AD server or whatsoever, which are not going to be updated through your saved searches or through your TAs. It's not cloud information, or it's not through it. It is going to be the static level only. So have that available as a manual or the static lookup with the lowest rank. So that AD server's priority defined as critical will always take the precedence. Does not matter if that is contributing in any of the lower level or higher rank lookups or not. Does that make sense? And anyone, any questions on that part? Okay. I will take that as a no. And now I'll go back to our initial graph. So this is the input where now we can understand that this can be your TAs, your service now TAs, your Cisco ISE, or your GCP add-on, or as simple as LDAP add-on, where it configures the saved searches, or which gives you the data source information. Then you have to do the configuration, define the inputs.conf, some modular inputs which updates the lookup, or some saved searches which updates your lookup at the end. So you can have millions of event, and you would want to have 10 or 15 rows lookup available based on those events. So you update that. Now, one important question is, what should be the frequency of updating the lookup? Because it's not that today I have 10 laptops, tomorrow it's going to be the same, or today I have 20,000 users, tomorrow it's going to be the same. It can be like 90,500, or it can be 22,000 as well. Some of the users can be deleted, some of the users can be added as well. So it really depends on from what log source the lookup is defined upon, and how frequently updates are there in your log source. I'll give you an example. uh, your AD team usually makes the changes, or usually creates the new user on Monday morning only. Throughout the week, they have the process that there will not be any additional users being added in the Active Directory server. So what you have to do is, while you configure your saved search, you have to configure in such a way that it runs in Monday afternoon or Monday evening. You don't have to run every 5 minutes or every 4 hours or something. All you have to do is just run that, which fetches the information from your LDAP server, and it runs every Monday in the evening, because till afternoon or so your lookups will be updated, or probably on the Tuesday morning you can just run, compared to your Windows events, or something which is from the firewall, which is being updated very much frequently, or something from your DHCP server, where the IP addresses are allocated, to different assets in different time range. So that's where you need to update your lookup very frequently. It can be like every hour for Windows, or every 30 minutes for other log source as well. So each of the log source where you define the saved search, the cron for those can be different. There is no golden rule that you have to have every 1 hour updation or so. So that's one of the questions which customer asks, that how frequently the lookup should be updated. That really depends on how frequently your log source is being updated. If it is Cisco Duo, or some product where the users are being added twice or thrice a week only. You really don't have to run every hour or so. You just configure it to run on those days, evening or the next day morning only. All right. So I think we have 1 minute, and I'll just take the questions. How to configure AI and I, sorry, not AI, assets and identity. We just had hands-on. Like you identify first and foremost, you identify data sources. Your Windows, your firewall, your Cisco Duo, and this. I have this four block sources from which I want to build my lookups. Then the data onboarding and enrichment. How would you get those information available in your environment? Then you set the priority and the category mapping. Category is also one of the fields in the assets and identity lookup. Then you merge the data with ranking rules like this, and you enable the merging. You validate it through the built-in dashboard, which is asset center and identity center, and you integrate into one or other correlation searches. All right.